Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson and in this video we are going to be going over yet another one of my Warhammer 40k armies. In this video we are going to be covering my Blood Angel army. So this is probably my second largest army out of all 6 of them. And I am really excited to show you guys this army. It took me ages to set them all up like this. So just before we get into things, so in case you are unfamiliar with Warhammer or anything, the Blood Angels are the 9th Space Marine Legion. They are a loyalist faction. Their Primarch is Sanguinius. And unfortunately he died at the hands of Horus during the Horus Heresy. And we will get into some of the ramifications of that in a little bit. So yeah, that's just kind of like the one-sentence summary of the Blood Angels, just so you know what we're talking about. Their armor is red, Blood Angels, blood, red, all that. One of the things about the Primarch Sanguinius is he was a vampire. And if you are familiar with Warhammer, you know that there is a thing called a gene seed. What the gene seed is it is a special organ that is given to Space Marines that essentially puts a little bit of their Primarch into them. And this happens with every single Space Marine Legion. So because Sanguinius was a vampire, and the Blood Angels received his gene seed, all of the Blood Angels are now vampires. They usually have it under control. They call it the Red Thirst. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I actually picked these guys. I really like factions in games that have a lot of flaws that are both in the story and actually tie into gameplay. And there's another flaw that we will talk about once we get there. So as you can see, we have an array of mostly infantry, but we do have some vehicles and dreadnoughts and stuff. So just before we start, I just want to say that all of the units in this army and in this video I painted myself. However, the bases that the units are on, I did not paint or make. The bases I either bought from Etsy or my local hobby shop or some other online site. I just don't want to take credit for the bases because I did not do them myself. But with that out of the way, let us begin. So, if this is the first of my Warhammer videos you are watching, the way I structure these videos is I group all of the same unit type together, and then in front of them I put 1 to 2 leader units or high-ranking units, just so I can kind of cover them all in a more streamlined fashion. The elite/leader units that are placed in front of a specific infantry type are not always the leader that would be used with that infantry type. It's more so just I have to put them somewhere, so I just kind of put them wherever there's space. So with that out of the way, let us get started. So the first thing we are going to cover is my assault squad. So the assault squad are extremely good at hit and run tactics. They have these massive jetpacks on their back, which most other Space Marines do not. They have their yellow helmet. The Blood Angels have a helmet color code. So red is standard, yellow is close support, so that would be things like, melee or up-close firefights. Blue is fire support, so these are the more kind of heavy weapon-oriented soldiers. And then gold is a position of leadership, and the decorations on the gold helmet kind of identify the rank. So there's a bunch of them here. I have oh sorry, most of them come equipped with a bolt pistol and a chainsword, which is great. You know, they're able to fly into a combat zone, land, and instantly start slashing with their chainsword. So really, really cool units. These were actually the very first Blood Angel units that I ever bought. So I'm a very sentimental feeling about these guys. So for the two elites I have stationed in front of them here. So first off, we have a Primaris Captain. So he looks so cool, in my opinion. So first of all, he has his blue power sword, and he has his bolter with a purity seal on it. As you can see, his armor is a lot heavier, and like I said, because he is a commander, he has the gold helmet, but he also has this awesome red mohawk. And then on the back, he has a black cape. Very nice unit, one of my favorites. I really like the Blood Angels captains. I think they are quite nice. And the other unit is the Blood Angels Librarian. So the Librarians serve two functions. One being in universe and one being in game. So in universe, they are the legions or the chapters, you know, bookkeeper or record keeper. They make sure that everything is written down and notes are taken, books are written, any kind of intelligence is put to paper, which is very important. The other main thing, which they also do in the lore, but this is mainly what they do on the tabletop, is they are extremely powerful psychers. So apart from having this guy's power sword, he can also, you know, use his psycho powers against enemies. Really, really cool. Now, the Blood Angels, like I said, are all painted red. However, the Librarians typically have blue robes regardless of whatever legion or Space Marine section they belong to. So I kind of did a bit of a middle ground where I painted him red and then his robes are blue. So yeah, that's that. Let's us move on to over here. So next up, we have a very large group of units, and these are my Blood Angel Intercessors. So what an Intercessor is they are fairly jack of all trades when it comes to combat. They don't really excel at anything. They don't excel at shooting. They don't excel at melee. However, what they are extremely proficient at is taking and holding objectives. So these are the guys you want to send in to kind of hold or take an objective and then hold the line, which is a great use. I really like strategic units in Warhammer, not just combat units, but ones that actually focus on objectives, because I am a big objective guy. Now, I did not sort them as much as I probably should have. There are two types of intercessors in here. So the first one is one of these guys. So this is just your standard intercessor, if it were focused. There we go. So just a standard looking marine. You know, he has a bolter, he has a blue helmet because he is a fire support. And yeah, same goes for those guys with the yellow helmets. So these guys are just standard intercessors. The other one are these guys. Now these guys are intercessors in Phobos armor. Phobos armor is a type of armor that different types of marines can wear. Off the top of my head, I actually do not know what the difference is between Phobos and standard marine armor, but these models are so cool. They have these kind of C4 looking strap charges to their chest, and each and every single one of them has a massive knife, which is so cool. I think the knife is always underlooked for Space Marines because they're always using massive guns, but you know, one of these things charging you with a knife is insane. And you know, this is the Space Marine, and this knife is almost as big as the guy's arm, so like, oh my god, that would be terrifying. So leading them here, we actually have 3 units, just because I thought they were fitting for this. So our first unit is a Phobos Lieutenant. I just wanted to include him here because we were talking about the Phobos armor. As you can see, he has his bolter strapped to his back, which is very, very cool, and a knife in the other hand, gold helmet since he is a lieutenant, and yeah, I just thought that I would put him here because I didn't know where else he would fit in as well as he fits in here. The placement of the leader units in this video are not always going to be the ones that I would use with said group. Some of them are just because I don't know where to put them. However, these ones I would use with this group. So the next is a captain in Phobos armor. So he looks very, very cool. So he has a sheath knife. He has something covering one of his eyes and a beard. He's pointing to something. You can see that there are a bunch of religious iconography hanging off him with his bolter up in the air. And he has his helmet on the back, which I think is so cool. There's a couple of Marines I have that have this little detail, and it is very, very nice. One thing about this unit, and I do not know if this is just me, but I swear it is intentional, is if you have played the new Space Marine 2 game, the captain in that game looks identical to this model. So much so that I'm going to put a picture up now of showing you him so you can see. So let me know, do you guys think he looks like him or no? I personally think he looks identical. And next up, and lastly for this section, is a librarian in Phobos armor. So as you can see, he looks very different to the librarian that we just saw. No helmet. Instead, he has this really cool hood with these gloves covering his face and a massive power sword. Now, unfortunately, this was actually the first librarian that I bought for my Blood Angel army. And when I bought him, I did not realize that librarian robes are meant to be blue. So I painted them this kind of brownish red. It almost looks like the color of blood. So that is why he is not painted blue, but I don't want to repaint him. I personally think he is good as is. So let us move on. So our next group is my tactical squad. And just before we get into the tactical squad, I just want to say very quickly that I do apologize for my hands and the camera shaking. I made a very stupid decision in having an espresso right before recording. So yeah, so I do apologize if that bothers you. So the tactical squad, for want of a better term, are just your standard Blood Angels. They just have standard armor, they just have standard bolters. There's nothing really standoutish about them. They are just the jack of all trades for the Blood Angels and kind of the backbone of the army alongside the assault squad. But I love them none the same. They are so, so cool, and they're so much fun to play because people underestimate them until they get a bolter shot through the face. So, our leader units. So we have a couple here, and might take a little bit longer to explain. So these 3 guys here, if I can actually get them to stand up. 1 second. So these three guys here with the kind of golden pointed style helmets are sergeants for the tactical squads. So I thought that I should just show these guys off first. Why I have three is just because I like this model. The kind of bird-like beak helmet looks very, very cool in my opinion. So we have one with a power hammer and a plasma pistol. We have our second guy who has a chainsword and a, what else does he have? Just a chainsword and a bolt pistol. Also, this is not dust. This is intentionally meant to look like he has been aged, almost like he's been around so long that his armor is starting to peel. And then our last guy just has a bolter with a little scope on it. So, not necessarily the leaders, but they are more leaders than your standard units. So as for our actual units, our leader units, so first up we have a Dominion Zephon. I believe I'm saying that properly, but in reality I am probably butchering it. So this guy is quite cool. His role is kind of hard to describe. I'm not 100% sure on it myself. He is a jump pack wearer, so he's able to jump around the map. He has this massive sword, and he's just able to strike people down. Very powerful, very fast. As for his character, I don't know much, if anything, about him. So I don't want to say anything that would be incorrect. And in case you're wondering why do I have this unit that I know literally nothing about, it's just because he looks so cool. I mean, come on, look at this guy. And next we have our Primaris Lieutenant. So this guy is actually my most recent pickup for my Blood Angel army. And while I did paint him, I did not spend too much time doing the detail on him. I didn't, do a bad job, I don't think, and I didn't, be lazy, but I just didn't put as much detail in as I have with other models. So, quite cool. You can see that he has a little laurel around his helmet, a blue power sword, and a plasma pistol, as well as the Imperial Aquila on his pack. Very nice unit, really like him a lot, but let us continue. So now over to here. So our next group is a group called the Death Company. Now, before we look at the units, I should probably explain what Death Company actually is. So I had mentioned at the start of the video that the Blood Angels have a second affliction, and that affliction is called the Black Rage. This is caused by the corruption, a corruption in their gene seed. So the Blood Angels Primarch was Sanguinius, and as I said at the start, all of the Blood Angels have Sanguinius's gene seed. However, during the Horus Heresy, Horus killed Sanguinius. And Sanguinius's death and also his betrayal of being killed by his brother was psychically implanted into the gene seed of all Blood Angels. The most significant side effects of the Black Rage are hallucinations. They start to see Horus, they start to see Sanguinius being killed by Horus, they start to see things that just fill them with rage. So the Black Rage is something that lurks inside every single Blood Angel, and they have to work at it with their mental fortitude to stave it off, because once you get the Black Rage, once it has started, there is no coming back. You are going to be forever like that, where you are just a man who sole purpose is violence, no higher thought. You just kill everything and hallucinate everything to be your enemies. So it is a very bad condition they suffer from. And they actually have a unit type in the army that we are about to talk about here. So this right here is my Death Company soldier group. So let's talk about my Death Company unit. So the first thing that you can probably see that is different from the rest of the Blood Angels is that the Death Company soldiers are all in black, whereas your standard Blood Angel is painted red with the blood drop with wings logo or insignia on them. The Death Company are all black, and you can tell someone is in Death Company, apart from them having black armor, by these red crosses. If I can get it to focus, that is the symbol of Death Company. What is really cool about Death Company is they are not locked to a specific unit type. Any non-named character or elite character, such as say a Primaris Captain or Primaris Lieutenant, can be in Death Company. So you can have assault squads, you can have tactical squads, you can have Intercessors, Terminators, and the list goes on, which makes it really, really cool that you can essentially make whoever you want into Death Company units. In terms of gameplay, they do have guns, and they are still as good with them as the rest of the Blood Angels. However, their speciality is melee combat because they are filled with such berserk rage. They are devastating in melee, which is really cool. That's why you can see a lot of them here have some kind of melee weapon. This guy has a chainsword, this guy has a axe, and so on. So, before we get to the main commanding units, these four in front of us here are the squad leaders. So this guy, and this guy are Death Company lieutenants. Let me pick one up for you so you can see. So you can tell by the little gold thing on their backpack, which is quite cool. Also, I forgot to mention, the Blood Angels normally have either blue or green eyes for their helmets. Death Company, however, has red eyes. And this guy is technically the squad leader for the entire Death Company unit. So this is the Death Company captain, as you can see by the massive golden headdress that he is wearing. Actually, I don't know if it's a headdress, it's connected to his backpack. So he is wielding a chainsword and a plasma pistol. Really cool, and you can see the red X's covering his armor. So, apart from those, the elite units that I have placed here, one of them does not have anything to do with Death Company, while the other one does. So, we'll start with the one who does not, and that is our Chaplain in Terminator armor. So, Chaplains are your priests, essentially. They are the spiritual units for the Blood Angel Legion, or basically the entire Astartes Legion and the Grey Knights. And this one is in Terminator armor, and his model is absolutely amazing. You know, you can see him thrusting his power sword down into the head of what I'm presuming is a demon. Now, I'm not sure when or what order these videos are going to come out in. However, in my Grey Knight video, I had stated that the Grey Knight Chaplain was my favorite. But you know what? I am actually going to take that back, and the Blood Angel Terminator Chaplain is my favorite chaplain. So, next is one of the most important units in all of the Blood Angel army, and that is the Martyrs. So the Martyrs is someone who has fallen to the Black Rage However, he is so strong-willed that he is still lucid throughout everything. He is also the overall commander of the entire Death Company, and he is known as the Champion of the Lost. And he also wields an extremely ancient weapon called the Blood Crozius. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so if I am not, I am sorry, but it is a extremely cool weapon, and his presence alone boosts the morale of the Death Company so much. So really cool guy, really cool unit, and an amazing backstory. I love this character to bits. But let's continue. So next up we have my Blood Angel Terminators. So these are your standard Terminators for Space Marines. They have mostly the same weapons. They have Thunder Hammers, they have Heavy Bolters, Storm Bolters, different types of halberds and swords. I believe one of them even has lightning claws, though I don't know. Oh, here he is. Let me show him to you. This is him here, if I can get him to focus. So this is him with his claws. Extremely cool. Now, I didn't know which part to put them in, but I also have a couple of Terminators who are technically part of Death Company. So they are guys like this. So they are still Terminators. However, they have the black color scheme, the red eyes, and they have fallen to the Black Rage, which I think the only thing scarier than a standard Space Marine who's gone berserk is a Terminator who's gone berserk. Really cool unit. I absolutely love him, and I love the Terminators in general. I decided to paint his head kind of this light brown bronze-ish color just to kind of make him stand out a little bit, and I think it turned out quite well. We also have this guy who has a massive chain gun, and my personal favorite of all of my Terminator units is actually a Death Company member, but he has this missile launcher on his back, which is crazy. So not only does he have his bolter and, you know, the raw strength of a Terminator, but he literally has like a missile launcher on his back, which is incredibly cool. So let's talk about some of the leaders that we have here. So these two, I'm just going to show you one of them just because they are the same unit. So these are Terminator captains, or more specifically, captains in Terminator armor. So as you can see, they have Terminator armor, but it is a little bit more decorative with the gold chains. They have the cape with more gold chains, they have the bolter, and they have their thunder hammer. Really cool. They excel at leading Terminators, and yeah. Also, I should just probably say, I apologize for some of the quality of the faces of some of my Blood Angels. Despite being my army that I actually bought third, they were the first army where I painted faces. Up until that point, I had just painted helmets. So some of the faces are either hit and miss. Some of them are either excellent, or some of them are either like, you know, get the heavy flamer, we need to burn this heretic level of bad. So anyway, our other unit is, so our next unit is this guy, and this is, while still a Terminator, he is technically called a Space Hulk, and his name is Gideon. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, I do not know much about Gideon's character, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about it just in case I get anything wrong. However, his model is incredible. You have the chains around him, you have his shield, you have his massive thunder hammer, and these kind of tubes which are connecting the hammer to him. He also has these wings on the back. Normally he does not have them, but I had 2 wings left over when I was building my army, so I just thought that I would add them to this. They serve no gameplay purpose for him, but I just think it makes him look even cooler. So yeah, those are the Terminators, and I absolutely love them to bits. So next up, we have our Hellblasters. So the Hellblasters are a type of marine, and they all have extremely heavy plasma rifles, which makes them super deadly, and they are great at pouring out covering fire and fire support of all kinds. So I have a couple different styles of paint job here. The reason is I bought my first squad first, painted them one way, decided that I wasn't really into it, and then painted the rest another way. So I'll show you both just so you know what I am talking about. So our first type is this guy. So he has a more maroon style paint job rather than the typical bright red. He also has this nice knife on his knee with white accents, white stripe on his helmet, and gold rimmed shoulder pads. So this is his heavy plasma rifle here. Extremely deadly. These things will absolutely destroy anything that their weapon hits. The other color scheme that I have for them is like this. So this is very different to the one we just saw. So this one is the standard Blood Angel red. I gave them yellow helmets. Their plasma rifles I did red to kind of match their armor, and they have a small little pistol on their back, which is actually quite cute. The main difference of the models, though, is these guys have a cord connecting their plasma rifle to their backpack, which the previous ones did not. So I'm not sure what that entails in terms of differences. I'm assuming it means that this can fire faster without overheating, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, the Hellblasters were one of the first units I decided to buy when I made the choice to start a Blood Angel army, and yeah, I love them. So, as for who is leading our Hellblasters, so our first elite unit is a Primaris Captain, and this is him here. So I painted him a much darker tone of red with these gold shoulder pads that almost have this winged design to them. He is covered in robes and seals and stuff, as you would expect for a captain. I gave him a black cloak and a black pack just because I thought it would contrast well. He is wielding a bolter in one hand, as you can see here, and a power sword in the other. I did not paint this power sword blue. I painted it just silver just because I thought the blue would kind of take away from its look. And the sword, if you notice here, is kind of notched and dented. The 2 at the top are intentional. They are the way the sword came. However, the one at the bottom is not intentional. That is because my cat got a hold of our dear Primaris Captain here and did a number on his sword. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of Crimson lore for you. Next up is another extremely important unit, and that is Astaroth the Grim. So Astaroth is a really, really noble character. So he goes around the Blood Angels army and looks for soldiers who are very, very close to falling to the Black Rage. And while he is unable to help them, what he does do is try and provide them one final taste of glory leading them into battle. He is an expert soldier, an absolute force of nature to be reckoned with on the battlefield. As you can see here, I have painted him red. He has some white hair and a massive power axe and 2 black wings. Now, the black wings are not just something I put on, these are actually part of him, and that is why he is able to semi-fly. So really great character, and just an example of why I love the Blood Angels so much. Their named characters have such interesting stories to them. But that's it for our Hellblasters and Astaroth the Grim. Let us move on. So for our next unit type, we have the Infiltrators, and while these guys are not my personal favorite unit, I cannot deny how cool they look. Let me find a model and show you guys. So most of them have this black helmet. If it will focus, here he is here. And they just have standard bolters. So they all have these kind of antennae coming out of both their backpack and their helmet. Also, I know it's not a backpack, I just call it a backpack. But yeah, these guys are great at sneaking into objectives and are incredible at holding them. And also in terms of gameplay, these guys are able to deploy a little bit earlier. So you're able to use them to, say, rush to an objective way before your opponent can get there. And between that and their skill at holding objectives, they are extremely useful on the battlefield, or on the tabletop. Tabletop, battlefield, same thing. And for our elite unit for this, we have a Librarian in Terminator armor. So the rules in terms of gameplay are essentially the same as the other Librarians that we talked about. He is in Terminator armor, like you can see, and he has this massive axe. His shoulders are red, but his armor is blue because, you know, Librarians and blue and stuff. He also has this massive book chained above him, which reminds me a lot of the Grey Knight's Terminator. Oh, sorry, not the Terminator. The Grey Knight's Librarian. If you are familiar with that model, you might see the similarities too. But I really like him. Obviously, since he is in Terminator armor, he is a lot harder to kill than your average Librarian. But same thing, in terms of gameplay, they are extremely potent psychers and very, very good. So, yeah, let us continue. So our next unit type is one that I do not have very many of. I only have 6 of them. For this specific unit type, that is more than plenty. So these are Blood Angel Eradicators. So these guys, if I can get it to focus, have extremely thick armor, and they even have these kind of tubes going from their thigh to the back of their foot, or the back of their heel, I would say. And they all carry melters, so these guys can unleash extreme havoc upon the enemy. The reason why I don't have that many of them, and why most people don't use that many of them, is just because they are so powerful, and they also cost a lot of points in game. So you get to a certain point where using too many can be redundant. So that's why I have 6. I think that is a perfect number for them. And as for our leader, let's have a look at him. So our elite unit is this guy, and he is a captain in Gravis armor with a heavy bolter. So there's a lot of information there, so let me explain what all of that means. So Gravis armor is yet another type of armor that Space Marines can use, similar to how some that we already covered have what's called Phobos armor. but Gravis armor is a lot heavier and thicker than your standard marine armor. Not quite a Terminator, but almost like a middle ground between a Terminator's armor and a standard Space Marine's armor. And he is also carrying this massive heavy bolter, which is crazy, and I don't know why I can't get it to focus on the gun itself. There we go. But you can see just how big this thing is, especially when compared to him. And he also has this sword with him as well. So he is an extremely powerful unit. I actually always go out of my way to use him whenever I play games, just because I love his model to bits. And he is also one of the most recent purchases I have made for my Blood Angel army. So let us continue to the next unit type. So these four lads here are the next unit type. They are the Blood Angels Infernus squads. So they are really, really cool. So first off, they have these really heavy duty flamers. So they do not mess around. They will burn anything and anyone. I really like them just because I'm a fan of flamethrowers in general, and the Warhammer flamers are some of my favorite. In terms of painting, I did something a little bit different. I made all of these guys very glossy. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but it's not matte like the other ones. You can see it a lot better on the helmet, where their helmets are blue, but again, very shiny. I'll show you another one. I might pick it up a little bit easier. There we go, that one, you can kind of see the glass. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say on these guys. They are just an extremely good force with flamethrowers. They are a bane to my opponent's infantry. Again, I don't have that many of them, and most people do not use that many of them, both because they are so powerful, and two, because they cost a lot of points on the game. So, our next squad that we're going to be looking at is our Incursor squad, which is these guys here. So, the Incursors are some of, if not my favorite overall unit in my Blood Angel army. There is so many amazing things about them. So first off, they are great at taking enemy objectives, seizing objectives, and holding objectives, as well as doing extremely fast hit and run attacks. And my personal favorite thing about these guys is they have a unique ability where they can ignore cover. So what that means is if one of my Incursors is behind cover and there is an enemy in line of sight, the Incursor can just shoot through the cover and kill him. Like straight up, he can just bypass the cover, which is crazy. Another reason I love them is their models. Let me show you one. So they have this extremely tactical look. So they have, this guy has a knife on his shoulder, a knife in his hand, a knife on his thigh, I don't know why I said shoulder, a knife in his hand that he's about to throw. He has, and they all have this, this kind of yellow half face mask, as well as different types of things on their chest. So this guy, for example, has what looks to be grenades. I'll pick up another one and see what he has. This guy looks much the same, but same thing with the chest, same thing with the bolter and the pistol. Really, really cool. So they are great for essentially running into cover and then killing the enemy from behind cover, which is always fun. It makes your opponent so happy, so I would recommend doing it. And leading them, I have our third major Blood Angel character, and that is Mephistan. So Mephistan is the Chief Librarian for the Blood Angels. He is an extremely powerful swordsman, but an even more powerful psyker. What makes Mephistan extremely unique about the Blood Angels is he is the only person in the entire Blood Angel Legion who had fallen to the Black Rage and managed to come out of it and regain his mind, which is unheard of. No one else has ever done this before, except for Mephistan. So he is an absolute unit in terms of his mental fortitude and the will to be able to undo the Black Rage. As for his model here, I have him with a sword and a plasma pistol. He has this cool little backpack on him, or not backpack, but just actually I don't even know what you would call this thing, like a hood or a caul, with two skulls on it. Really, really nice. Also, this is the old Mephistan model. There is a new one, but I personally like this one, so I just decided to keep it. So let's us move on. So next up we have these four guys, and I am currently drawing a complete blank on their name. Oh, sorry, their unit name, but essentially they are Blood Angels with extremely heavy plasma rifles. So as you can see here, the plasma rifle is massive, and if you don't know, in Warhammer, the plasma rifle is one of the most powerful weapons in the Imperium. However, it has one tiny little problem, and that is there's like a 50-50 chance that it'll just explode and kill whoever's using it, even if you're a Space Marine. So you can see it is connected to his backpack, so I'm assuming that is giving it extra charge or fuel to make it even more potent and deadly. Now, I did something a little bit different with this one, and I'm not sure how it turned out. I personally don't think it turned out that well, but I'll let you guys decide. So this was my first time using an airbrush. My airbrush had just arrived. Normally I paint with just paintbrushes. And my idea was to use the airbrush to to spray the front of the Marine blue, so that it looks like that the glow coming off the plasma rifle is shining on the Marine's armor. Now, it did not turn out awful, but it did not turn out good either, in my opinion. So I'll let you guys be the judge of whether you think it is nice or not. But very powerful unit. Again, very similar to our flamers that we saw previously. Extremely powerful unit, extremely powerful gun, so you do not need that many of them. So, on to the next. So next we have my Centurions. So Centurions are absolutely massive, to put it lightly. They are probably the largest infantry unit in my Blood Angel army. They are used for their firepower, as well as a siege unit, and as a mobile fire base. That is how large these guys are. So you can see their tiny little head poking out from within this massive model of armor. There are two different types of Centurions. One is called a Devastator, which carries cannons and offensive weapons, and the other one, I can't remember the name, but they carry drills, and it's also for breaching enemy fortifications. These ones are the Devastators. So as you can see, you have the cannon and you have another cannon here. So extremely cool. And I just want to show you guys for a size comparison. So this is a Centurion, and this is a Terminator. Look at that size difference. So the Centurions are beyond huge. Again, Because they are so powerful, you do not need that many of them. I only have 3, and they are all of the Devastator model, and they are some of my favorite units to field on the tabletop. But yeah, let's continue. So our next unit that we will be covering are these 5 units here, and these are the Crimson Paladins. So these guys are essentially guards for the Primarch, both on his person during combat and also in his home or wherever he is living, they stand guard. So they are some of my favorite models for the Blood Angels. I'll give you an example of some of them. So you have them here. They have this massively cool set of power armor with this robe covering the lower half. Each one of them is equipped with a melee weapon, so in this case a power sword, as well as a major firearm. So this guy has a Gatling gun, and you can see that the red is there. Now this guy is actually the leader of the squad. The rest of the squad forego a firearm and instead have a shield. So I'll use this guy as an example. So you can see he also has a power sword, but he also has this shield. So the shield, in my opinion, is just pure incredible. The design on it, the colors, you know, it has a Sanguinor's face on it. I will talk about the Sanguinors in a little bit, but yeah, the amount of detail on these units are so good, and they are one of the most powerful units in the Blood Angels. So again, you do not need very many of them. So on to the next. So up next is our Blood Angel Eliminators, and there are 2 different types of Eliminators, but we will get into that shortly. So first off, we start with the main one and my personal favorite of the 2, and that is just your standard Blood Angel Sniper. So these are the snipers for the Legion. Don't really have too much to say. They're just, you know, your average sniper. They have their cloak covering their entire body. I did my best to kind of mix up the cloak colors. Some of them are black, some of them are red, some of them are black with like streaks of red. But yeah, also there's, I don't know why, to me there's just something so funny about a man, like a 9-foot tall man in massive power armor trying to be like sneaky and hiding himself under a cloak. To me, that's just very, very funny. The other type of Eliminator, these guys. So these guys are not snipers at all. They are scouts. So they essentially go and they report back so that we can have a view of the enemy's location and movements and everything. I honestly don't really use these guys that much. I only bought them because they came with the Eliminator snipers, but yeah, I think I've only used them once and it was not a good time. Now, as for the leader units for the Eliminators, first off, they have nothing to do with the Eliminators. I just did not know where else to put them. And personally, they are some of the most interesting units just based on their models, because I actually did not know that these types of units even existed before I started really looking into Blood Angels to make sure I got everything correct for this video. So, our first one is a, let me get it to focus. This is a Primaris Chaplain, which I did not even know existed. So he has his sword, he has his gun, or his bolter, sorry. He is not wearing the skull mask, which is interesting. But he does have a flag on the top, or a banner with a skull on it. So very cool unit, but it kind of took me by surprise because when I think Chaplain, oh, he also has the Blood Angel logo on his back, sorry. When I think Chaplain, I think of, Skull Mask people. But no, this is, since he's a Primaris, I'm assuming he's a newer Chaplain. But yeah, and our other one is yet another Chaplain. So this is a Blood Angel Chaplain. This is just a standard Chaplain. I thought that, this must be some kind of... I had originally thought that this must be a Chaplain in like Gravis armor or in some other kind of heavy armor type. Even like, a Centurion Chaplain. But no, this is just a standard Chaplain. So he is absolutely massive, but is so cool. Has a bolter with a comically large magazine or box mag, as well as a pair of binoculars. So really nice. I really like both of these. The Chaplains are some of my favorite units in all of 40k. So next we have these 6 guys here, and they are called the Stern Guard. So the Stern Guard excel at ranged combat. They are extremely accurate with their weapons and are famous for their ability to take down high-profile targets. By high-profile, I mean extremely dangerous that, another Blood Angel might not be able to take down. They are some of my favorite units, like standard infantry units in all of my army. Let me just get it to focus here. So first off, you can see they have a kind of golden beige helmet as well as the shoulder pads, and they have this laurel wrapped around their head, which I am a big fan of since I'm a big Roman history buff. Really like these guys. I think they are so cool. Here's another one. You can see a close-up of his face. And there is one other Stern Guard I wanted to show you. Actually, 2 more. So there is this Stern Guard, who does not have a helmet, but as you can see, he is an older man. So for a Space Marine, who knows how long this guy has been serving. He might have even been around for the Heresy. And the other Stern Guard unit I wanted to show you is just this guy. He looks markedly different with the just plain gold helmet, but he has the shoulder pieces, and especially this one. So while he looks different, he is still a Stern Guard, and I am happy to welcome him into my army, or into this unit and my army. So as for the elite units, so we have 3 elite units here. 2 of them, I believe, are sergeants. I am actually not sure because I completely forget what these guys are. I read somewhere that they are sergeants, but now I can't find that source. But yeah, so this is what they look like. I really like him. So he has this double-sided axe with a shield. The way you can tell it's a sergeant, apparently, in the Blood Angels is this little piece on their waist that kind of looks like interlapping copper discs. And our other sergeant, quote-unquote sergeant, is this guy. So he is standing at attention with his spear and his shield. His shield has a face on it and looks a lot different. I really like this guy. Same thing, kind of copper discs on his waist. The only thing though is, and I do not know why Games Workshop did this, maybe I just used the wrong set, but this guy skipped leg day. I mean, look at his legs compared to the rest of his body. Like, that's mental how different it is. And our third leader for this group is a Primaris captain. So you can see him here in all of his glory, red armor with gold all over the place. He has a gold headdress, a gold helmet with green eyes. He has a stone bolter on his wrist. I believe that's called a stone bolter. If it's not, I apologize. His shoulder pads have the Imperial Eagle on them, same with his chest, and a power sword in one hand. So absolutely incredible unit. And to top it off, he has the Blood Angel logo on his cape. So that is it for these guys. Let us continue. I believe we are about 2/3 of the way done at this point. So our next units are these two. These two are the Blood Angel Apothecaries. So the Apothecaries are essentially the medics of the Space Marine Legions. So these guys are the ones who will try and heal their brothers, or amputate limbs and replace it with steel ones, or essentially do whatever is needed to try and keep a Marine alive. I have two of them here, so I have this guy, and I also have this guy. This guy is actually my personal favorite of the two, just because he's kind of looking at his bloodied hand, so I'm imagining that, you know, he must have just gotten out of surgery or something. One of the cool things about the Apothecaries is they have these tools on their back. They are almost like needles or something, so they're able to kind of, you know, really take care of their patients between their two hands, and then these mechanical appendages. They do their best to try and keep their brothers alive, and I would too. So, next unit. So next up, we actually have 3 more Apothecaries. However, these guys are quite a bit different. So the ones we just looked at were purely doctors. They believed in medicine and stuff. These guys are what is called a sanguinary priest. So they heal their wounded brothers. However, they use bits of holy blood, sanguinius's blood, and all that stuff to heal themselves. So I have 3 models here. So the first one is painted very similar to the Apothecaries that we just saw. However, this guy is holding a cup, and inside, you guys might not be able to make it out, but there is a red liquid inside. Very cool. We have another one here. This time, he has the back of an assault type infantry that we saw at the very beginning of the video, except he is holding a goblet, and in the goblet there is blood. And lastly, we have this guy. So this is a kit bash that I actually made myself for almost like a high priest or a high sanguinary priest. As you can see, he is gold. He has this little bit above his head. He has his cape, but he also has a goblet, and you can clearly see the blood in there. Now you might be asking, Crimson, why are these guys, you know, drinking blood? If you remember, they are all vampires. So they have a craving for blood, and some of them take it to the point of almost ritualistic or religious, which is very cool. But anyways, let us go on to our next unit. So the next unit here are the Aggressors. So let me just show you one of them real quick, if I can get it to focus. There we go. So the Aggressors are very similar to the Centurions, but they are just a tiny bit smaller, and they serve a very different role. So what these guys do is they are extremely tanky objective holders. So these are the kinds of guys that you want to place on an objective, because they can take so much damage, and the damage output is pretty good as well. It's nothing amazing, but it's good. But it's the defense that really matters. So having a few of these guys in an objective paired with some other offensive unit is a really good strategy. I really like these guys. I painted them in this kind of half red, half gold scheme, which I just think works for them. And as for their weapons, if we can focus, will it focus? There we go. So we have a flamer on one wrist and another kind of either flamer or Gatling gun on the other, as well as just their fists themselves. And they have this cool helmet with almost like a gas mask. It kind of reminds me of the Death Curve Krieg helmets. But yeah, really good units. And I have 10 of them here, which is probably overkill. But for something as vital as holding objectives, they are very important to have in your army. So on to the next. So up next we have the Devastators. Now I'm not going to call these guys a squad just because I only have 2 of them. Let me show you one of them here. So these are Blood Angels that have these rocket launchers. Despite me only having 2 of them, they are extremely powerful. What these guys excel at is anti-vehicle. But what makes them interesting is they have extreme range with these rocket launchers. So you are able to take out vehicles from extreme distances. Now, the Devastators can also come with a variety of other types of weapons. They are all in the same vein, but I personally just like the rocket launcher look. So that's about it. I'll just show you the other one. Won't spend too much time because, like I said, I only have 2 of them. This guy is slightly different. He does not have a helmet. He just has kind of like an earpiece. But yeah, and you can see this guy has the rockets or spare ammo actually on the side of his rocket launcher, which is extremely cool. So that was just a quick little one, but they were very important, so I felt like I just had to include them. So on to the next. So next, we actually have my favorite unit type in my entire army, and that is the Blade Guards. So leading them, I have a unit called an Indomitus Captain. So this is him here, if it can focus. So you can see he is extremely heavily armored. He has his power sword, but what makes him and the Blade Guard unique is their shields. Now, what differentiates this guy from the rest of the Blade Guard is that his shield actually has a skeleton on it. Now, not a decoration skeleton, not some kind of decal to put fear into the enemies. No, an actual skeleton of someone that he killed, which is so metal. I love this guy. This might be my favorite unit in my entire army, but I'm not quite sure because I love so many different units. So these are the other Blade Guard units. So they are very, very similar. However, let me just show you one so you see what I'm talking about. So this is what they look like. So we have a golden head, if it can focus. We have a plasma pistol. And we have his shield. As you can see, his shield, while extremely decorative and extremely detailed, does not have the skeleton. So while they are very good with the Indomitus Captain, I feel like he just makes a great leader for them. These guys are my favorites. Sometimes they have plasma pistols, sometimes they have power swords, but I love them to bits nonetheless. And yeah, like I said, definitely my favorite unit in this entire army. On to the next. So here we have three very interesting units. These guys, I believe, are called Firstborns, and they are essentially a melee type unit. So I'll just show you this one as an example. So you can see him here. He has the Aquila on the back, right behind or on top of his backpack, with a power axe. And my favorite thing about him is his helmet. It has this kind of eye on his helmet. This isn't just a decoration. This would be like a hole in the helmet. If you have ever seen a picture of a knight where on their visor they have, the cross cut into their helmet, that's what these guys remind me of. And they also have these kind of cool mohawks on them. So the typical color scheme for these guys is a red body with a white helmet and white shoulder pads. And yeah, I love this unit. I don't really use it that much. No particular reason. It's just I've found that I have other units that are much better and are essentially the same points. So yeah, thought I would mention those. Again, I know I only have three of them, but they are a quite powerful unit and I just had to include them. So let's continue. So our next unit that we will be covering are these 5 units here, and these are the Crimson Paladins. So these guys are essentially guards for the Primarch, both on his person during combat and also in his home or wherever he is living, they stand guard. So they are some of my favorite models for the Blood Angels. I'll give you an example of some of them. So you have them here. They have this massively cool set of power armor with this robe covering the lower half. Each one of them is equipped with a melee weapon, so in this case a power sword, as well as a major firearm. So this guy has a Gatling gun, and you can see that the red is there. Now this guy is actually the leader of the squad. The rest of the squad forego a firearm and instead have a shield. So I'll use this guy as an example. So you can see he also has a power sword, but he also has this shield. So the shield is so here we have the first of our 2 different flying units for the Blood Angels. So these guys are called Suppressors. Let me pick one up for you. Oops, as I drop him. So here is the Suppressor. Let me get him to focus. So normally they are flying or on some kind of elevation. I just have this guy kind of standing on a little piece of debris. So these guys have massive sniper rifles. I don't know why this won't focus. I am so sorry. There we go. They have these massive sniper rifles, which they use, and they are in the air, like I said. So they are able to fly up in the air, take out this massive sniper, and just absolutely obliterate anything in their way. You know, this sniper rifle in the lore, I can't remember exactly the name of the sniper rifle, but it makes a weapon that we have, like the 50 cal, look like a pea shooter. This thing is incredibly powerful, and I love these units so much. I usually don't like flying units in my armies, but I had to get some of these when I saw their weapons. So next up is our second flying unit. So onto our second flying unit. These guys are called Inceptors, and they are basically the opposite or antithesis of the playstyle used by our previous flying unit. So as the units we just covered have extremely heavy snipers and tend to pick off important targets from a distance. Let me pick one of these guys up so you can see. If I can focus. These guys are the complete opposite. These guys specialize in extremely fast hit and run techniques and tactics. They have these dual, I'm not sure what these are. I'm assuming they're a kind of bolter, but they look like a very special version of it. So like I said, they do a lot of damage very quickly and then leave, so they're great for zipping around the battlefield, just kind of causing absolute havoc. Again, I really like these guys. Not a fan of flying units like I mentioned, but the Blood Angels have some incredible flying units. So let's continue. And for the elite unit I have for these guys is technically a flying unit, and that is the Chaplain with a jump pack. So he works in terms of gameplay as your standard Chaplain does, but the only difference is he has a jump pack here as well as these two ornamental wings and his little staff thing. I really like his skull mask. It's very different from the other Chaplains. This one looks more painted on rather than an actual skull. And I don't mean painted on as in like a paint job on the miniature. I mean like in terms of the armor design. I really like this guy. I feel like he's very underrated. I have barely seen anyone else ever use a jump pack Chaplain, but I personally really like him. So that does it for our flying units, so let us continue. Next up, we have a very small squad comprising of just 2 units, and they are some of my favorites in my entire army. They are called Praetors. So Praetors are actually mainly used in Warhammer 40k. They can be used in 40k as well, but they are primarily a 30k unit. However, when I had a look at these guys, when I read what they can do, I had to pick them up even if I end up, not being able to use them in a game. So Praetors are extremely skilled swordsmen. I'm talking like the best of the best. So they only engage in melee combat, but they are capable of cutting down almost any kind of enemy in front of them, except for maybe like tanks or something. Really cool. Even, like I said, even though I may not always be able to use them in 40k, having them in my army, in my opinion, was a must. Having them in my army was a must. Let me just quickly show you the other Praetor. So this is him here, very similar paint scheme, red and gold. I gave this guy a blue cape, whereas his friend has a white cape. And yeah, I love these guys to bits. And then I also have this champion Praetor here. So he is so cool. He has this massive mohawk on the top of his helmet. He has his sword, which is kind of slightly curved. This massive shield, which has this bit out of it. That's not a broken piece, that's intentional. And his unit is just so cool. Praetors are an extremely elite unit, so that's why you don't need many of them. So that is the Praetors. Let's move on. So the Sanguinary units, or in this case the Sanguinary Guard, are the religious warriors of the Blood Angels. They worship Sanguinius and believe that his blood is holy. So they are extremely dedicated. They have probably the coolest looking armor in the entire Blood Angels army. Not just my army, but Blood Angels army in general. They have this gold armor with these wings, and I don't know if you can make it out, but they have actual faces for helmets, not just your average Space Marine helmet. Their helmets are based on Sanguinius's face. So for the most part, these guys rely on melee combat, and they are extremely good at it. But I have quite a few different types of sanguinary guards and units. So we have this guy who does have a bolter as well as a power fist. We have this guy who also has a sword, except this time his is a lot bigger and has a kind of winged crossguard. This one you can see his face a little bit better, so really cool. And he is dual handing his sword for more effect. Where is the one that I am trying to find? This guy has an axe and a bolt pistol. This guy has, this is the one I was looking for. So this is the sanguinary banner bearer. So this guy carries this holy banner into battle. Really cool. I don't know if you can make it out, but it depicts Sanguinius. And he also has a sword. And yeah, they also have jetpacks or jump packs. So their wings aren't just decorative. They're able to fly around the tabletop or the battlefield, which is so cool. Now we also have two leaders to talk about, and both of them are quite important, so I'm going to give them each their own section. So our first elite unit that we're going to cover here is one of my favorites. I know I'm like a broken record saying that, but it is the Sanguinor. So this is the leader of the sanguinary priests or sanguinary units. He is an extremely powerful character to use in game. So his model is awesome. He has a sword, he has a chalice full of blood, and he is actually able to fly with his jetpack. Now, what makes him really good on the tabletop is he is as offensive as he is defensive and able to buff his allies. So I'll give you some examples of what this guy can do. So I'm not going to list everything, but just for a few examples of things a Sanguinor can do. He can teleport into battle during your opponent's turn and actually attack the charging unit. So say if someone is using a unit to charge at another Blood Angel or another sanguinary priest, the Sanguinor can just teleport in front of him and just cut him down instantly. So despite it being the other player's turn. The other thing that the Sanguinor can do, and this is more in line with, defense and buffing and healing, he can teleport in front of wounded allies. So if your enemy has a line of sight on one of your units and your unit is on critical health or mortally wounded, the Sanguinor can teleport in between them, blocking the line of sight, so that the attack that would have killed the other unit would hit the Sanguinor instead. So really cool unit, and his abilities just make him so much more cooler in my opinion. I absolutely love this guy. If anyone is thinking about getting or starting a Blood Angel army, I cannot recommend getting a Sanguinor enough. So let us move on to our next elite character and our fourth and final named character in this video. So that elite unit, if I can pick him up, that is none other than Dante. So Dante is one of the strongest characters in the Blood Angel army, and he is extremely dangerous on the tabletop. He is one of the most skilled Blood Angels in the history of the region. And he has, similar to the Sanguinar, lots of different abilities and stuff that he can use on the tabletop. He excels in melee combat. He does have a bolter, but he mainly uses his axe, and he excels in leading other melee-based units. So one of my personal favorite, actually I think it is my favorite abilities of Dante, is that he is so feared throughout the ranks of his enemies that during your opponent's turn, if one of your units gains line of sight on Dante, there is a chance that that unit would freeze in fear and render him both passive and immobile. So Dante has this really cool golden armor. I'll try and zoom in on his face so you can see. Very similar to that of the sanguinary guys that we saw. He does have some white accents on his armor, as well as a massive thruster pack. So he's also able to zip around the map on his jump pack. So that is it for Dante and the sanguinary lads. Let us continue. So this is our next group, and this one is going to be a little bit different than how we've been doing things so far. So these are all Blood Angel champions. Specifically, they are mostly some of the older models, and I'm talking about like metal models and stuff. So instead of just kind of showing you this and saying, oh yeah, they're heroes, I want to go through and just quickly show you each and every one, because some of them are incredible for how old they are, and you can tell that they're old. I don't know if you can see here, you know, this is the base size of one of them, whereas this is the base size of, you know, your standard Blood Angel in 9th, 10th, or essentially just modern era. So these guys are very old. So first up, we have this guy here. He has a power sword, a wing on his shoulder, sorry, not a power sword, a chainsword, and what appears to be something that could hold a banner. It's not that I had a banner and lost it. He just did not come with a banner. So let us move on. Next up, we have this champion. Why is this guy a champion? He just looks like a standard Blood Angel. Well, it's because of his shoulders. He has these one winged shoulder and the other one with the Blood Angel logo. So quite cool, but apart from that, there's nothing really special about him. He just has a bolter. Also, I should just say, as I said, these are all older units. I bought these secondhand, unpainted, from someone at my local hobby shop. They were selling their Blood Angel army, and while I did not want to buy basically a second Blood Angel army, since I already had all the units you've seen, he said that he had a lot of the old champion models, so I picked those up. Even if they cannot necessarily be used in 10th edition, I thought that I just wanted to have them anyway, and I'm so glad that I do. So next up, we have this unit. So again, looks very similar to a standard Blood Angel, but he does have these, I don't know what you would call it, this like golden inscribed shoulder piece, and then on this side we have a shoulder piece with someone's face. I'm assuming that's Sanguinius or Sanguinar, and then his power sword. Next we have this guy, again one of my favorites. So we have him with his massive shoulder pieces, even for a Space Marine, and they are slightly different. They're like, I don't know what you would call it, but they're not just flat. You have him with his power sword, his backpack, and most importantly, his shield, which is the ring. This is really cool. This is not a kit bash, by the way. This was an official model used on the current Sanguinary Guards and Sanguinary Priests, which I just thought is cool. Next we have this guy, nothing to really go over. But yep, hero, chainsword, really nice detail on it, the shoulders and stuff with the golden helmet with the snout. I like this guy a lot, but yeah, he's heavy, he's made of metal. Next, we have, if I can turn him around, sorry about that, that's embarrassing. We have a banner bearer. So this is a very, very old Marine. So he has his helmet painted gold with a, what is that? That is a power fist as well as a banner. So really cool. And the banner is like, I don't even know, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's like a woman holding two swords with angel wings, which is such a cool visual. Next, if I can focus it, we have this guy who has a golden helmet with red eyes, a green laurel around his head, a bolter in one hand, and a power sword in the other. Next, we have another metal unit. So this guy, again, gold helmet and a type of Thunderhammer. This is actually really cool, seeing how the Thunderhammer used to look, because now it's massive, whereas this looks like, you know, it was sawed off or something. But and he also has this nice little rectangular shield. Oh, sorry, square shield, my bad. And finally, for the champions, and the one I personally think is the coolest, is this guy. This guy is made of metal, so he's super heavy, but he has all this decor. He has these shoulder pads, the laurel on his helmet, and yeah, I can keep going on about him for ages, but I won't. But he does have a lot of great stuff going for him. I'll just turn him around if you would like to pause it and get more detail of him. But yeah, so that is it for that squad. I just wanted to quickly show you guys that. I had no idea where else to put them, so I just figured I would put them all together. But let's get back to the army. So we have officially covered every single infantry unit in my Blood Angels army. So now it is time to move on to the vehicles. But there is one type of infantry squad, I guess, despite them being mostly machine, which we will cover first, and that is the Blood Angels Tech Marines. So let me get them out here. So we have our first one here, which, if I can get this to focus, so we have him here in his Blood Angel coloring. You can kind of still see bits of like the Mechanicus skull and stuff on him, which I think is great. Just goes to show that while yes, he is a Blood Angel, he is still a Tech Marine first. So he has a plasma pistol and also his axe. So next we have a second Tech Marine. This one's a little bit different. So same kind of color scheme, except this one has a lot more Mechanicus iconography on him, a lot more skulls and stuff like that. I painted him slightly darker red, but I did leave a tiny bit of blue. And his head, instead of having a helmet, is a half robot, half human head, which I think just looks incredible. But yeah, and let's move on to our third Tech Priest, and one that is actually probably the most interesting, and that would be this Tech Priest here. So this Similar to the units that we just looked at, the heroes, this is an extremely old tech priest. In fact, he is made out of metal. He is sporting a bolt pistol as well as the Mechanicus axe, but it is much smaller. And he also has this flag with him. Now, I am fully aware that I cannot use this guy in any kind of, game or tournament or anything like that. But still, I really wanted to get this just because it would be so cool to have a older style tech priest. And also the older units I find to be extremely interesting. So with that out of the way, let's go. Also, we have this Primaris Lieutenant. I completely forgot to mention him when I was going through my army, but really cool. This was actually one of the first models that I bought for my army, and that's why you can see that, the eyes are not painted as well as I would have liked, but it still looks really, really cool. He has a bolt pistol, a chainsword, and he has his helmet on the back. It's kind of weird that, he has a helmet, but he also has a second helmet, but, whatever floats his boat, I guess. So with that out of the way, let's go and get started on these vehicles. So the first vehicles we're going to be covering are my Blood Angel Bike Squad. So these are them here. I have 6 of them. I will just grab this one just to give you a closer look. So you can see he is on his bike. This guy does not have his helmet on, so that is clearly a safety violation. He has a bolter in one hand and a chainsword strapped to his waist while he is driving with the other hand. The bikes themselves actually have 2 bolters on them, so they are able to fire while driving. These units are used mostly for hit and run attacks. They're very fast and stuff and are great for going behind enemy lines and causing chaos. Only issue is they are quite weak, but that's fair for the trade-off of how fast these guys can move. So I just want to show you one more of a guy with a helmet on. So this guy has a light blue helmet and is holding his chainsword. So that is the bike unit. Let us continue. So next up we have some dreadnoughts. So the dreadnought is a unit that is a mortally wounded space marine. So in this case, a mortally wounded blood angel. They are put into these sarcophagi and are sent back into battle inside of them. And they are capable of putting out some extreme devastation. But it is kind of scary that, not even in death can you rest. It's like if you die as a blood angel, they'll just use you in your coffin as a weapon of war, which is insane. So first up, we just have our standard dreadnought here. Nothing special about this one. This is just a normal dreadnought. So for his weapons, I believe that is a multi-melter on one hand. And then on the other, we have a power fist with a flamer. So all around, very good. He also has the standard triple grenade launcher. So that is capable of popping out a bunch of grenades, essentially for crowd control to clear space in case enemies start to swarm the dreadnought. Very, very cool. Next, we have the Librarian Dreadnought. So, like I said, the dreadnoughts are sarcophagi used by mortally wounded blood angels. So this is a mortally wounded librarian, and if you remember about the librarians, They are extremely powerful psychos, and that ability does not leave them when they go into the Dreadnought. So in terms of actual weapons here, we have what looks to be some kind of flamer. I actually can't tell what that is, but the main weapon is this massive claw. And on the other hand, we have this massive halberd that the Dreadnought wields. However, the main source of damage from a Librarian Dreadnought is the Psycho abilities that it has. It causes absolute chaos, and they are one of my favorite vehicle units in my Blood Angel army. And again, it has the same grenade launcher. Lastly, we have our, wait for it, Death Company Dreadnought. So if you remember, I said that the Death Company are filled with nothing but hate and anger and the need to kill and the need to essentially go insane. So this is a sarcophagus for one of those guys, which is not scary at all. So first off, we have, I actually do not know what that weapon is underneath. It looks like some kind of flamer maybe, but I can't tell. And he also has this massive clawed hand, and on the other side it's the exact same clawed hand and the exact same weapon underneath. Might be a flamer, but I cannot tell. So yeah. So that is it for our quote-unquote standard dreadnoughts. Now let's get into some of the more specialized dreadnoughts and vehicles. So we will start off with this guy, since there are two of them. So this is actually not a dreadnought, this is a tactical warsuit. The main difference is the dreadnought is powered and piloted by a mortally wounded, if not on the verge of death, Space Marine, whereas this power mech is powered by a fully alive, fully intact Blood Angel. It's essentially a giant mech suit that they can wear, which is still cool. So on one hand here, we have, I believe, that looks like some kind of dual chain gun, though I do not know exactly. And also, on the other hand, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to pick this up, is we have this claw. So we have melee and firepower. We also have this part on top, which is either a missile launcher or a grenade launcher, but I'm not actually sure which one it is. Anyway, let's continue. So next up is this guy. So this is my Blood Angels Dreadnought Brutalis. Now, the Dreadnought Brutalis is a purely melee-based dreadnought, and it is much more heavily armored than your average dreadnought. So this thing excels, and I do mean excels, in close quarters. You have two weapons sticking out from its middle. You have another dual cannon popping up from its back, and yeah, this thing just, if it gets close to you, you're essentially dead. So if you're playing against one of these, you want to try and kill it before it reaches your line, because if it reaches you, that's game over. So it has these two different types, these two massive claws on either hand, which it uses to rend enemies apart, as well as its two guns here and its cannon up there. Really cool, really good unit. It's one of those units that's extremely specialized, but when you need it, it works wonders. So next up we have our Redemptor Dreadnought. Now this Dreadnought is using a mortally wounded Primaris Space Marine, Doesn't really make that much of a difference, but I just think it's cool that, you know, different types of Marines spawn different types of dreadnoughts. So this unit is both a ranged and a melee focused dreadnought, but one of its main things that it can do is it can escort teammates out of danger and kind of stand in the way of the bullets so they do not get shot, which is so cool, and honestly kind of nice for a Blood Angel, which on its own is frightening. It's like, why are these guys suddenly being nice? So anyway, so we have a heavy plasma rifle here on one hand, and on the other hand we have another not a fist, not a claw, but just an open hand. And to me, that's actually so much scarier than the claw. But yeah, that's really about it. The base is really nice as well, just a comment on that. But yeah, okay, so let us continue. Also, just before we continue, so again, this is another Redemptor. I won't be covering it because we just covered the other one, and this is like identical. So it's the same colors and everything, same plasma rifle. So next up we have the Brutalis Dreadnought. Now what the Brutalis Dreadnought does is it is mainly for supporting fire or covering fire. It is extremely tanky and is able to lay down immense amount of suppressing fire, so that other units are able to, you know, not be in danger because the enemy will be pinned down. It's also capable of absolutely shredding infantry. It has two massive cannons on either arm with 4 barrels each, so it has a total of 8 barrels that it can shoot from simultaneously, as well as its grenade launcher on the very top. So for our last dreadnought, and my personal favorite, is the Ballistus Dreadnought. So this dreadnought is mainly used and specializes in anti-armor. So this thing is essentially a tank killer. Again, it is extremely tanky, and on one hand it has a multi-melter, which is good for in case any enemies get close, but the real powerhouse of this weapon is its multi-missile launcher. So any vehicle that stands in its way, this thing will just absolutely destroy. So if your opponent has lots of tanks, this is something that you want to bring to the table, as well as having 2, I believe those are heavy bolters, so it has 2 on either side, so 4 in total. This thing is an absolute powerhouse on the tabletop. So that is the last of the dreadnoughts. Let us continue. So next up we have my 2 drop pods, and while they seem fairly inadequate compared to the other vehicles, they are very good if you use them properly. So each of these can hold 10 Marines, and what you can do with them is you can use them to deploy anywhere on the battlefield, and you can deploy them within 9 inches of the enemy. So for example, what I could do is, if I was playing against someone, I could say fill 1 up with 10 of my Blood Angel Eliminators, which are the snipers, and place them very far away from everyone else. And then the other one I could fill with 10 Death Company members and place this one extremely close to the enemy so that the Death Company guys can go in and just start causing havoc with their melee abilities right at the start of the game. So they are extremely useful to have. I feel like these don't get as much love as they deserve. I absolutely love these things to bits. But with that out of the way, let us continue to our 4 vehicles. So for our first vehicle, we have the Baal Predator. Baal, by the way, is the homeworld of Sanguinius and the Blood Angels. So this is the smallest of my 4 vehicles. However, that does not mean it is the weakest. This excels in close quarters combat. So this is something you want to bring in to really close or tight environments if you're playing with terrain. Mine is armed with the Flamestorm cannon, as well as 2 heavy bolters, one on this side and one on this side, and it's also equipped with the Hunter Killer missile. Really good. I feel like this vehicle is underrated, but very similar to the drop pods. If you use it correctly in the right circumstances, it can be super deadly. So our next vehicle is the Repulsor Executioner, and this is almost like the standard tank for Space Marines. It's kind of like the Jack of all trades, but that kind of infers that it doesn't do anything great, but trust me, it does. So this is armed with its main battle cannon on the top. It has a Gatling gun as well for taking out infantry, so this is good against both vehicles and infantry. And it has a Blood Angel that is the commander of it, and he is also able to shoot out from that, so you get to use him as well to kind of pick off infantry. Really good for both infantry and vehicles, as well as having the pilot be able to, say, pick off infantry that come a little bit too close. This is also able to transport 7 units, so that's also really cool. It just helps with, you know, if you're moving up in formation, you could put 7 of your most elite units in, and then once you clear the area, they can pop out. So yeah, really good. I absolutely love this thing, and let us continue. So our next vehicle, and my personal favorite, is the Gladiator Lancer. So this is the anti-tank tank, essentially, for the Blood Angels. It is specialized for taking out any and all armored units, whether they're tanks, dreadnoughts, or super heavy infantry. It comes equipped with a ton of weapons. You have its main cannon, you have the heavy stubber, which is up here, you have a missile pod there, and you also have 2 heavy bolters on either side of it. So I absolutely adore this vehicle. This is one of those units that I bring with me regardless of who I'm playing against. If I'm playing Blood Angels, this thing is coming with me. It is very similar in use to the Ballistus Dreadnought. However, this one is actually better at taking out vehicles than the Dreadnought. So yeah, that's why I love this thing, just because it's, for someone who runs an army comprised of 90% infantry, having something that can take out tanks no problem is so nice to have. So our final vehicle and our final unit for this video is the Blood Angels Repulsor. So we covered the Repulsor Executioner. This is a standard repulsor, and there is a lot to say about this. So first off, it can transport either 10 standard Blood Angels in the standard armor, or it can transport 5 Blood Angels in either Gravis or Terminator armor, which is really handy. and it also has a ton of weapons that it can use as well. So as for its weapons, it has a heavy onslaught Gatling, which is this weapon here. It has a standard Gatling, which is this weapon here. It also has a twin las cannon there, a las cannon there, and also a hunter seeker missile as well. So it is very, very good. It's not the best at taking out tanks or other armor. However, actually this is where the missile comes out of, right there. However, for taking out infantry, this is gonna be your go-to vehicle. So all of the vehicles that I have kind of all serve their own purpose. None of them do, no two of them kind of do the same thing, which is one of the reasons why I chose these vehicles for my army. So guys, that is going to be it. So that is it. That is my entire Warhammer 40k Blood Angel army. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Any excuse I have to talk about Warhammer or my Warhammer armies, I am always glad to do. So one thing I will ask though, and I never ask this in any of my videos, however, if you did enjoy this video, if you could leave a like, that would be amazing. This video took me absolutely ages to make between recording and sorting all the different units into their own kind of regiments and squads. It's after taking me about 6 or 7 hours all said and done, and that's before editing. So apart from that, again, thank you so much for watching, and